On September 11, 2001, the world was changed forever. America faced the worst terrorist attack on domestic soil as 4 commercial planes were hijacked and crashed into the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania. This resulted in an estimated 3,000 casualties. After these attacks, the American airspace was shut down, forcing hundreds of planes to ground themselves at the nearest airport. For 38 of those planes, the Gander International Airport was the safest place to land. Beginning performances in 2013, before making its Broadway debut in 2017, Come From Away tells the stories of several residents of Gander, Newfoundland, and the passengers of those airlines as they were forced to spend 5 days together while the world fell apart. While the subject matter might sound like a downer, Come From Away uses the narrative, characters, music, and overall presentation to highlight the humor, heartbreaks, and hope that humanity can find during tragedy. Based on the book The Day the World Came to Town, the show feels like a collection of small stories rather than one narrative. We, the audience, bounce back and forth from story to story, learning what the residents of Gander and the airline passengers experienced during those 5 days when the world stood still. When we're introduced to Gander, we learn that it's a small town of only 9,000 residents, who are about to receive 7,000 refugees. This immediately plunges the town into chaos, showing the confusion that impacted everyone on that day. But does this stop them? No. Instead, the residents band together, calling off a busing strike and converting local homes, churches, and schools into shelters for the plain people. It's a very inspiring and hopeful story as we see the kindness that was shown during such an uncertain time in North America. The story also balances hope and confusion with humor. I was caught off guard when one of the first lines in the show involves a character telling speeding high school students to STFD. Slow the down. This crass humor contrasts greatly with the dark subject matter of the show, allowing the audience to have a moment of levity.
Appleton and Gambo have already offered, but we can't get them there.
Girst bus drivers are still on the picket line. Without them, no one's going anywhere.
Oh, for Jesus' sake, I'll tell them where to go. Don't quote me on that.
The story of the show would most likely be too depressing without it. As I mentioned, the narrative consists of multiple short stories, rather than one continuous narrative. In order for this to work, the show would need some very compelling characters to keep the audience invested in the 106-minute runtime. The cast from Come From Away is very interesting in the matter of filling roles. While this narrative features over 30 different characters, they are all played by the same 12 actors on stage, utilizing quick costume changes. That being said, each of their stories are so unique you can easily tell who they are in each scene. One of my favorite characters and arguably the heart of the show is Beverly Bass. As the first female captain for American Airlines, you can understand the stress and uncertainty she must feel in these trying moments. This and her backstory are captured in her solo, Me in the Sky.
Suddenly there's no one saying stay grounded, looking down, passing them by. Suddenly there's nothing in between me and the sky.
It's absolutely heartbreaking to watch the actress and hear the song come to an immediate stop as she realizes the thing she loves most was used to strike fear in all of America. Speaking of fear, no character should feel more afraid than Ali, a Muslim man traveling to the United States to serve as a world-class master chef. Instead, his hopes and dreams are shattered that day as he faces the full backlash of Islamophobia and racism brought about by the events on 9/11.
Hey, what the hell are you saying?
I beg your pardon.
You celebrating this? You praying for your friends? Why don't they speak English?
Excuse me. Why are you telling your Muslim friends with a bomb next?
This was not all Muslims.
Go back where you came from.
It's sad to watch Ali's life fall apart as the musical progresses, knowing this is the reality for so many Muslim families, even to this day. Thankfully, the show has Bob to balance out the despair with his comedic relief. As a black man, Bob is no stranger to prejudice and racism in the United States, so he's caught off guard by the kindness and generosity of the Canadian people, and spends his time drinking and relaxing with the locals.
Son, do me a favor and start to round up some grills.
Round up some grills?
Yeah, just go to people's yards and take their grill.
Take their grill? Someone's gonna shoot me. And the whole time I keep thinking, someone's gonna shoot me in the back.
Hello there. Are you taking my barbecue?
This is your barbecue.
Yeah, buddy.
Listen, I'm so sorry.
My wife's
but
got the kettle on if you want a couple.
I get offered a cup of tea in every single backyard.
His bits always get a good laugh from the audience and keeps the show lively. Meanwhile, the Kevins are two gay men lost in a foreign country, finding themselves wondering if their relationship can survive the stress of a major event. Bonnie Harris is the town vet who takes care of the animals in all the planes, once again showing that while the plane people struggled, the people of Gander had a mission they set out to accomplish. Hannah and Booyah are two older members of the cast, consisting of a mother to a first responder in New York and a teacher in Gander. Hannah shows the helplessness the plane people felt, while Beulah serves as her support system.
I should be there when it's over and done, when he comes through the door and says, I'm home, Mom. I should be there for my son, but instead I am here.
Nick and Diane are two plane people who flirt and eventually fall in love, showing that even in one of the greatest tragedies, people can come together and fall in love. As we all know, songs in a musical should be used when the emotions on stage are too big for words. And seeing as the subject matter of Come From Away is a national disaster, there are all kinds of emotions on display that must be communicated through song. While they might not all be my personal favorite style of music, and I'm not going to talk about every song, they do each express the heartbreak, humor, and hopes of the events told. Welcome to the Rock introduces the audience to the town of Gander and the ridiculousness of the entire situation.
Welcome to the Rock if you come from away. You probably understand about half of what we say. They say no man's an island, but an island makes a man. Especially when one comes from one like Newfoundland. Welcome to the Rock.
The song is very silly before immediately shifting to horror and chaos once the news of New York reaches the rest of the world.
And I turn on the radio.
You are here at the start of a moment.
The way the cast all freeze and the tone shifts is haunting, really cementing the gravity of the situation. 38 Planes is another one that perfectly exemplifies the fear and confusion as 7,000 people are added to a small town in Canada.
On a normal day, we get a half dozen flights, and now we already got 3 times that many landing in 2 hours. It's a lot of noise, and you can smell the fuel. You can smell the exhaust.
However, it's followed by blankets and bedding, which comedically shows how the residents of Gander came together to help.
Medicine,
Toothpaste,
Underwear,
aspirin, jackets our kids grew out of last summer.
and down at the station, we're taking donations out by the door.
Holy Jesus, there's more.
It makes for a good juxtaposition as the residents of Gander take action after deciding they can't sit back and watch anymore. 28 Hours / Wherever We Are is one of my personal favorites, capturing the confusion and stress of the flight crews and the passengers on the planes. It's especially helpful when it reminds the audience that in 2001, cell phones were not easily accessible or reliable. Instead, the passengers are left to speculate and share their phones.
I want you to tell us
A helicopter
a
crashed in
helicopter
Pennsylvania.
crashed into a building.
The White House! The White House is bombed! We need to do something!
Oh my God, it's World War III!
One of my favorite moments is when Beverly Bass finally contacts her family, reassuring them that she's safe, while also learning that a fellow pilot was on the plane which hit the Pentagon.
Oh, thank God, I finally got through. I borrowed a passenger's phone. How are you? Are the kids okay? No, I'm fine, Tom. I'm fine.
This is an experience that I'm sure many pilots and their families went through that day. It's not until darkness and trees and lead us out of the night that the plane passengers finally learn what has happened.
Lead us out of the darkness.
We were all staring at those images.
And we just stand helpless watching him.
While they're confused, scared, and angry during unloading, those emotions are quickly replaced with mourning and speculation as they learn what happened. I really like how they have a moment to reflect and imagine how anyone could have been on those planes that day.
Lead us somewhere to safety.
We barely know where we are, but we know it's not there.
Suddenly, maybe their situation doesn't seem so bad. However, things can only remain calm for so long as everyone is on the edge. Here we see that everyone is scared and the situation is getting worse. It hurts so much to see the way Ali is treated during this song.
That was back where you came from.
I'm Muslim and I was born in Connecticut. She's an American citizen.
You don't look American.
No.
On the edge of the world or wherever we are.
On top of the rising social tensions, a hurricane looms on the horizon, threatening to strand the playing people in Gander indefinitely. The show's pacing and suspense suddenly ramps up as we now have a ticking clock to beat. Thankfully, as things look dire, the plain people and residents of Gander find the opportunity to relax and have fun at a local bar. In the bar /heave away and screechin' serve as a nice break in the story, seeing the plain people become honorary Newfoundlanders through a song and dance. It provides a nice break from everything as everyone truly gets a chance to just relax and have fun. Sadly, this small trip to Newfoundland couldn't last forever, and the plain people leave in 38 Plains reprise / somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
38, 38, 30, 30, 30, 38
And if you look out your windows, underneath all that rain is Maine. We've just crossed the Canadian border. Welcome back to the US of A.
This is personally one of my favorite songs, as while it is sad, it's also a bit hopeful. While the plain people's goodbyes are sad, it does once again shine a positive light on a terrible scenario. Having the plain people note that while it wasn't the trip they planned, they definitely feel like they've left Newfoundland changed for the better. That being said, the sad vibes continue into Something's Missing, as the residents of Gander feel the loss of the plain people. As someone who grew up in a small town, I can't imagine having the population doubled and then cut in half in just 5 days. How do you go back to normal life after that? Meanwhile, back in the United States, the plain people let the fear and anxiety of the events in New York set in.
Back at my dad's house, I look out the window at this view I've looked at my whole life, and now a part of it, something's missing.
Something's missing.
Flying on a plane is already scary enough. I can't imagine wanting to go back on one after the events they've all just experienced. Thankfully, the musical does know the audience needs a happy conclusion in the final song, aptly titled Finale.
Rogers TV, I'm Janice Mosher. On September 11th,
2011.
the town is again filled with come-from-aways. On the 10th anniversary from all around the world, we welcome back the plain people.
1, 2.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the friends who have come from away.
Hey!
We, the audience, get the satisfaction of learning how these stories end and what the characters have been up to. For example, Beverly Bass, who it seemed like might be finished flying after the events of 9/11, would go on to fly for 10 more years before retiring. It really helps to highlight that everyone was changed during those 5 days in Newfoundland. While America lost something huge, these people made friends and loved ones who would last a lifetime. Of course, the story and music are important elements, but they mean nothing if the show never makes it to the stage. Thankfully, Come From Away keeps things simple. The stage itself is framed by wooden beams and planks that serve as both the trees of Newfoundland as well as the plain. They give the set a very coastal vibe, which makes sense, seeing as Gander is an island city. Additionally, tables and chairs are used as needed to symbolize the airplane and notable locations in Gander. It's simple, but that's all this show needs, and it works. Plus, these simple set pieces are given momentum through the use of a turntable stage when available. Personally, the show I saw didn't have a turntable, but I didn't feel anything was missing. The constant costume changes are impressive, but can also be confusing at first. Like I mentioned before, all 30 characters are played by the same 12 actors. They do this through fast and constant costume changes to distinguish the different characters. I did find it hard to keep track at first, but I feel you can catch on pretty quickly. Something else that is unique to this show is that it doesn't have an intermission. While not the only show to do so, most shows run over 2 hours and include a 15-minute break for the cast, crew, and audience in the middle. I understand why at 106 minutes that would be hard to do. It would cause an awkward pause only around 50 minutes into the show, when the plot really gets moving. That being said, I think if necessary, you could slide an intermission into the show following the honorary Newfoundlander ceremony in Screechin. This is right after we learn about the incoming hurricane, but before the plane people leave, making for a fun but suspenseful pause in the show. Additionally, Screech Out is one of the best, most energetic curtain calls I've ever seen. This follows the bows where the band comes out and lets loose, with the audience often clapping or dancing along. It ends the show on a very high energy that most shows don't attempt. And I will always support any attempt to acknowledge the band in the show itself, so what better way than for them to play it out? So now that I've spent the last however many minutes telling you how great this show is, I should probably tell you where you can watch it. Obviously, check the North American tour and your local theaters for a live performance. Nothing beats that. However, if it isn't an option, there is a pro shoot on Apple TV+. Starring most of the original Broadway cast, it serves as a great substitute if you can't see it live. It is arguably the best seat in the house, switching between different camera angles to truly capture the emotion and heart of the show. Additionally, the Pro Shot adds something that isn't in the original show. During the credits, which you obviously don't have during a live show, the credits are included in your playbill, the Pro Shot shows the real photos and people that the story of Come From Away is based on. I thought it was really cool to see the actual evidence from the real-world events that they pulled from to tell this wonderful tale. That being said, streaming can be so fickle. Currently, Apple TV Plus costs $10 a month and includes a 7-day free trial. However, you never know when the prices might change or Apple could lose the distribution rights to the Pro Shot. That is why I am taking this moment to beg Apple to please release the show on Blu-ray or even DVD. I would willingly pay whatever price to permanently own this show on physical media. As I said before, while the subject matter might sound like a downer, Come From Away uses the narrative, characters, music, and overall presentation to highlight the humor, heartbreaks, and hope that humanity can find during tragedy. I strongly recommend you give it a chance, whether that be at your local theater, a road trip to chase down the North American tour, or the Pro Shot on Apple TV+. In today's ever-changing world, we could all use a laugh and introspective into the highs and lows of this silly thing we call life. Thank you so much for listening to my ramblings about this heartbreaking but fun show. If you've seen the show, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. I've been on a bit of a Broadway speed run the last few months, so expect me to talk about Beetlejuice the Musical, Kimberly Akimbo, and Little Shop of Horrors real soon. If that sounds interesting to you, maybe take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when those arrive. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.